me now. Joining me now is the Biden campaign headquarters, in Wilmington, Delaware, is Senator Chris Coons, who serves as the co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign. Thanks so much for joining me, Senator. Let's start with what Arlette was just talking about, the strategy of the Biden campaign looking forward. I'm going to simplify it. Less about Joe Biden, more about Donald Trump. Good idea?
Well, Joe Biden's got a very strong record of accomplishments to run on, and he and many of us who are campaign surrogates are going to continue to remind the American people of just how much he's gotten accomplished over the last 3 years, how strongly we've come out of the pandemic and the economic challenges that created. But it's also important to remind the American people how much chaos there was during the Trump presidency, what his leadership was like, and how January 6th, 3 years ago, was the culmination of that, in which the former president literally mobilized a mob to go attack the American Capitol. It is worth focusing on the ways in which former President Trump is clearly signaling that if he were reelected, he would continue and extend and expand the chaos we all experienced during his 4 years as president.
Senator, I want to ask you about a report from my colleague, Isaac Dovere, about the plans inside the Biden campaign going forward. And in that report, he learned that one of your Democratic colleagues in the House, Steve Horsford, he went to the White House, met with Biden officials and urged them to move off using the term Bidenomics, saying that it's a phrase centered too much on the president and not appealing to voters enough. Do you agree? How is that message, which was so prominent sort of in the back half of 2023, how's that going?
Well, Dana, let's focus on what's happening on the ground. The good news is that there's been an all-time high in our Dow Jones in the stock market. There's a steady reduction in inflation. Prices are coming down both for insulin. The major manufacturers of insulin this month begin a $35 a month price cap. But your average American isn't feeling it. They're still paying too much at the grocery store. They're still paying too much for rent or for housing. And so we have our work cut out for us in connecting with average American families who, although they hear the news about how much has been accomplished, or they hear us talk about, an all-time high stock market, they're just not feeling it. So to the extent I'll agree with the congressman, we need to sharpen that message and deliver it in a more effective way. But I am convinced that over the coming year, our economic circumstances will slowly, gradually, broadly get better for working people, for families of all kinds across our country.
I noticed you did not use the term Bidenomics. Was that intentional, or you just skipped over it?
I'm perfectly happy to talk about Bidenomics. I was just choosing, instead of focusing on the term, to talk about what's actually happening on the ground in the United States.
Got it. I want to turn to something that is before you in the United States Senate when you come back to town, and that is aid for Israel. It's tied up with border security and other issues. Your colleague just on Israel, Senator Bernie Sanders, released a new statement this week urging Congress not to pass any additional aid for Israel while the Netanyahu government is conducting the war in Gaza. Now, even you've said that Benjamin Netanyahu is an exceptionally difficult partner. Do you think it's time for new leadership in Israel?
Look, Dana, I hesitate to call on a close ally that is a democracy to engage in a change in their elected leadership. But as you just cited, I have repeatedly commented on how Prime Minister Netanyahu is pulling in a different direction than our president and than many in our capital, both Republican and Democrat, who for a long time have viewed a two-state solution where Palestinians have some hope, some prospect of self-governance as the only real path forward. Every time that President Biden and the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor go to Israel, engage with the Netanyahu cabinet and with the Prime Minister, he often seems to then want to disagree or pull in an opposite direction. It is making our sustained close alliance and partnership more and more difficult. Although, Dana, I will remind you, the Israelis just announced a significant troop withdrawal from Gaza in recent days.
Yes, and obviously I totally understand. Israel is a democracy, and it is not the practice of most American politicians to get involved, particularly with a close ally. But the United States has leverage. And what Senator Sanders is saying is let's use the leverage we have, which is the money, and not give it to Israel as long as Netanyahu is the prime minister. Would you be willing to go that far?
No, I don't think conditioning our aid to Israel on a change in their elected leadership is something that I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But continuing to send forceful messages, both publicly and privately, about critical policy matters, I think is an important way, even with close allies, that we deliver important messages. Two members of Netanyahu's cabinet, have Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, two ministers, have recently made public remarks that suggest that removing the Palestinians from Gaza is part of their ultimate objective. And I may be mischaracterizing it, but in a quick review of recent comments and exchanges back and forth between the administration, that's something where, because it is so sharply contrary to our policy positions as a country in Congress, that there was a sharp denunciation of those particular positions. Similarly, when there was settler violence in the West Bank, there was clear and sharp comments made both by the administration and that I support, calling for an end to settler violence that was seeking to change the facts on the ground and to impose more and more needless civilian deaths on Palestinians and to further inflame the conflict. President Biden is doing the right thing in trying to deter a broader regional fight. And that's becoming harder and harder as developments in the region make it more difficult. We have deployed significant assets to intercept Houthi attacks, to prevent Hezbollah from further expanding, to prevent Iran from further expanding this conflict. Well, but that becomes difficult if we have a partner who is pulling in different directions than we are.
Very diplomatic. Senator Chris Coons, I really appreciate you coming on. You mentioned Iran. We're going to talk out of the break about breaking news out of Iran. More than 100 are dead after two separate explosions struck near the grave of an Iranian military commander.